In your court, what matters more, the rights of individuals or your political ideology?
The RCMP is endangering female prisoners by housing biological males who identify as female in female cells. Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. I've seen some videos lately of Senate hearings down in the US, but they do apply to the Canadian situation. In these Senate hearings, Senator Ted Cruz and others were questioning potential federal judge candidates who were up for appointment to, I believe it was a Southern District of New York, as district Supreme Court judges on their records. Senator Cruz, as well as other senators, questioned one judge on her decision to house a biological male who had been convicted of several violent crimes towards women, children, both male and female children, and those crimes were of a sexual nature, as well as child pornography, to have that person housed in a female prison because they identified as female. I'll link this video, as well as a few others that depict this hearing, in the description below. And after you view that situation, I'll relate a circumstance that I had while I was a sergeant in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and relate how that video is associated to this incident, and how the RCMP is violating women's rights and putting women in jeopardy with their policies. First, we'll roll that clip, and then we'll discuss it.
In your court, what matters more, the rights of individuals or your political ideology?
Well, my political ideology doesn't matter at all.
Okay, so I don't believe you. And I think this case demonstrates that you are willing to subjugate the rights of individuals to satisfy your political ideology. This case involves a male defendant who raped a 9-year-old boy. Was he guilty of that?
Yes, the petitioner pled guilty to that.
Okay, so he raped a 9-year-old boy. He also raped a 17-year-old girl. Was he guilty of that?
He pled guilty, the petitioner pled guilty to that crime as well.
So was he guilty?
I hope so, because she pled guilty to it.
He was a he when he did this.
That's correct.
And also criminal deviant conduct, which the record doesn't disclose what that was exactly. Then, after serving in prison, Mr. McLean was released for parole, but then violated the terms of parole by having internet and was sent back to prison. 1 year after being released again, he was convicted of having child pornography. Is that correct?
I'm unclear on exactly the time frame that you're at, but the petitioner was convicted of distributing child pornography.
Child pornography that was images of adults violently raping children.
Abhorrent conduct.
Okay.
For which there are real victims.
And this individual, 6'2", biologically a man. A minute ago, you said that when this man decided that he was a she, you said this individual was, quote, I wrote it down, sober and entirely a female. That phrase struck me as remarkable. Did this individual have male genitalia?
I think what I said, or at least what
that is a verbatim quote, entirely a female.
Sorry, what I meant to say was hormonally a female.
Okay, but that's not entirely. Did this individual have male genitalia?
Yes.
So you took a 6'2" serial rapist, serial child rape with male genitalia, and he said, you know, I'd like to be in a women's prison. And your answer was, that sounds great to me. Let me ask you something. The other women in that prison, do they have any rights?
Of course.
Do they have the right not to have a 6'2" man who is a repeat serial rapist put in as their cellmate?
Senator Cruz, I considered the facts presented to me, and I reached a decision based on what the law
I asked you a question. Do they have a right not to have a 6'2" man who is a serial rapist put in as their cellmate? Do those women have a right to that?
Every person who's incarcerated has the right to be safe in their space.
But you didn't think so. You didn't think so. And in fact, I'm going to give some quotes from your order, because Senator Kennedy is right. This is not a judge's order. This is a political activist. By the way, the beginning of your order says, at birth, people are typically assigned a gender. I got to say that would astonish a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans think you go to the hospital, a baby is born, and congratulations, you have a little boy, a little girl. The assigned a gender, I know you went to Brown, but it sounds like it's in a college faculty lounge with no bearing on reality. The Bureau of Prison argued what I'm saying right now, that if you put this person in a female prison, there will be a risk of sexual assault to the women. And you know what you did? You said you didn't care about the women. I'm going to quote what you wrote. You wrote, quote, "The Bureau of Prisons claim penological interest in protecting female prisoners from sexual violence and trauma. This interest is legitimate," that's kind of you to say, "but there are no signs that petitioner is at risk of reoffending. The record is devoid of evidence of incidents of violence or assault during petitioner's incarceration when she was the perpetrator, only the victim. A theoretical risk of sexual assault by the prisoner without more cannot support the BOP's position. No evidence, theoretical." In what universe is someone who is a serial repeat child rapist not at a risk of reoffending?
Back when Justin Trudeau first became Prime Minister, I was a sergeant at the Surrey Detachment of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. While I was there, I had to attend a mandatory seminar. And at that seminar, a superintendent or chief superintendent, I'm not sure which, it was a while ago, gave a lecture. From this point on, I'll just refer to him as a white shirt, as that's the common slang that RCMP members give to all commissioned officers in the RCMP. In his lecture, he said something that I couldn't believe at the time. He told us that we had to house biological males who identified as female in the female cells. He said that if we didn't, we would be violating their rights. We could be dismissed from our job, and we could be sued. We could be held civilly liable for violating their rights. I immediately objected to this because I thought it was nonsense. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I pointed out to him that we would be violating the rights of the female prisoners more than we would violate his rights if we were to house him with the biological females. But he didn't want to hear any of that, and he quickly shut me down. So here's my concern. Granted, in a detachment the size of Surrey, most prisoners do get their own cells, and you can't see from one cell into another because there are solid doors on the cells. So it probably didn't matter that much. However, on a busy night, there could be a potential for prisoners to be doubled up in a cell. Definitely at smaller detachments, prisoners are doubled and sometimes even tripled up all the time. So what if a biological male was brought in who identified as female and was placed in the female part of the cell block? Then another constable or corporal or whomever brought in another prisoner, a female prisoner, and lodged them in the same cell with that biological male. The potential for violence is quite great. The white shirt didn't seem to see that as an issue, totally ignoring the safety issue in favor of the woke ideological BS that has been forced down our throats for over a decade now. It's clear to me that the higher-ups, many of whom couldn't hack it on the streets, found a way to climb the ladder so they wouldn't have to do real police work. They're out of touch with reality. They're political monsters, and their decisions put real people at risk. But make no mistake, this came down from the top. This came from the Trudeau Liberals. I can't recall any of this nonsense being pushed on us under Harper or before. But maybe I was just out of touch. I don't know. But the Liberals clearly care more about this woke ideology than they do about people's safety. Think about this. Let's say you're a female and you're out on a first date, and everything is going fine until your date does something incredibly stupid and illegal, and he gets caught. And at the time, it looks to the police like you're involved, so you get arrested as well and placed in a cell. In that cell is a biological male. Would you feel safe? There's a very real potential of violence towards you. So I ask you, whose rights are more violated? The female who gets placed in a cell with a biological male, or a biological male who gets placed in a cell with other biological males? It seems to be a no-brainer to me, but that's my opinion. I'm just an old-fashioned guy with common sense. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Put your comments below in the comments section. And while you're down there, please hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And before you go, if you think that this woke ideology is just getting out of hand, there's a link in the description and in the pinned comment to a petition that urges Mary Simon, the Governor General, to do her job, dissolve Parliament, and call an early election. I encourage you to go there and sign that petition. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.